Another great challenge here this week, going on the road and playing a great Georgia team. Always a very big challenge, as we know. Georgia coming off a loss. I'm sure they'll be in a bad mood, like our players are, and we're just looking forward to getting back out there today and trying to improve. As I said, post-game Saturday, I really like this football team and the way they work and their attitude. Don't expect any of that to change. We just need to be better, and we need to execute in critical moments and just become a better football team. So it's going to be a real challenge here. Great respect for Kirby and Georgia and what they've done. It's a typical Georgia team. Very good in every area, very physical, make things tough, for us offensively, defensively, really playing at a high level, mixing things up, and good at all levels of the defense. Disruptive, strong guys up front, linebackers that could run, and very good cover guys. And offensively, a typical Georgia team. Very big, very physical, run the ball extremely well, and a quarterback that operates within that Mike Bobo offense very effectively and put a lot of stress on you. And I think they have always been talented and very good, but I feel like their receiver position's even gone up a notch this year. Very talented players. So great challenge and another tough environment.
Mark, you mentioned the environment there. Obviously, Cutter played at Florida and Texas last year. What can you learn from Saturday that you can apply?
Yeah, it just has, you've heard me say it a lot, but it's true. With every opportunity, you have to learn, from that, whether it's success or failure or, anywhere in between. You just have to get better and, use that experience. And, we have to play better around them, too, give them that time. And, with the first turnover with the protection, there's things we could do better there. And, so Cutter will get better. The nice thing about him, he's very resilient. And he has a strong belief in himself, and the players believe in him as well.
Mark, after you looked at the film, what did you see from the offensive tackles?
We struggled at times, technique-wise, assignment-wise. We were pretty good, for the majority of the night. You have to be 100%, though, and we weren't that. And technique-wise, some guys were, fighting it a bit, and a bit off, and can play better. And we need them to.
Coach, it seemed like on Saturday when Carolina, specifically the defensive line, was doing some twist action, that it was really getting to you guys. Did you see that when you watched it back, and how do you kind of correct or fix that?
Yeah, there were a couple in between. Nothing we didn't prepare for. Doesn't make it easier, but there's things that we were working and doing with that. And, a couple that stick out to myself and probably you were big plays. And that's why I say, the vast majority of the night we're on point there, with our assignments. Technique was, you're going to get beat once in a while, but our technique could be better. And assignment-wise, there could be no time for that. And I think experience does matter. And, with Cutter getting his reps and seeing that, there are times we could get rid of the ball as well. We had one where we had Lenore's where we twisted, and, it came completely scot-free, but he kind of took the shot and delivered a completed pass. Those are things that, we have to be able to do.
Did DJ Waller have a setback, or was he just not ready last week? It seemed like you were optimistic he was going to be back.
I was hoping, but, it's one of those injuries with a hamstring that's touchy. And, it's very frustrating for him. He's worked very hard, and you heard us talking a lot about him in the camp and throughout the summer, and he worked really hard and continues to work hard, and it's frustrating for him. And for guys that have never been through that before, you try to educate them and help them and talk through it about how you feel like you're okay, but then the minute you got to go cover somebody and open it up, it's just a different deal. So. We'll continue to gauge that.
Kirby always has a lot of respect for you guys because you play him close. Is there something to that? Is it a style that is similar to them that you guys are able to play Georgia well?
Well, I mean, we just try to be who we are, and and through the years, we've always tried to be very tough and very physical and play the game the right way. And but they've been on certainly on the right side of the wins and losses. They have a great team. They beat a lot of people, and they've had a great program for a long time.
Well, obviously nobody wants to play from behind, but what has to happen for the offense to get to a point when adversity does strike, when you are down multiple scores, it doesn't feel so daunting to be able to get back?
Yeah, it is fair point, because we are methodical right now and not overly explosive, and therefore we have to play a game a certain way. And I think we just got to continue to get better in all areas. And whether it be coming up just a fraction short in protection, or a quarterback maybe missing a throw, or a receiver not coming up with a dynamic catch, you put it all together and it's not a great recipe.
Tavion Gadsden had a sack, and which been your guy? Seems like he's come along.
Yeah, he's played really well. He did. He played a good game. He's just a guy that really, has fought through a lot of injuries and works really hard and is getting better and better, and definitely showed up in that game. He was very disruptive and played a good game.
Was Jacob Cowley this consistent in camp too? That's always the question with a young kicker, because that's something he's turned on since.
He's been very steady. I wouldn't say perfect through camp, but definitely a guy that you say, okay, here's a redshirt freshman with a lot of talent, and he's been very consistent, and appreciate that. It's been a good left.
Mark, we still have Sellers, and we've seen it before how he stresses the defense. How does Georgia's offense stress your defense?
Yeah, Sellers definitely is a difference maker. Because you can see in that game we play a lot of plays very well, and then he will do some things individually. We did a decent job. We gave up the one pass, the explosive, pass for 59 yards, and then some other explosive that they have, like, were plays that were kind of could have been shut down that he individually made, and you have to give him credit for that. That's what he does. He's a very good player. And can also hurt you just sitting in the pocket. Like I said, one of the best plays he made was when we had a twist and a guy coming right at him, and he knew he was going to get hit and delivered a strike. That's hard to overcome. But Gunnar is a guy that is most definitely a dual threat guy, and he operates this offense very well. He's a guy that can. He just makes very good decisions. He could hurt you with his legs, and just buy himself enough time, and has just enough speed and athletic ability to really hurt you when he wants to. But he also operates the offense very efficiently.
Or is there a point with the wide receivers that you just decide to maybe look at some younger guys, or where's that position at?
No, the older guys have worked really hard and have been very consistent through practice and give us the best opportunities, and we're waiting for all those guys to emerge. Young guys, middle, old, you name it. We'll take anybody that'll step up, and and guys coming back off injury and just different things, and so we need them all to continue to progress, and we just haven't had the consistency that we'd like, and but Hardley's a guy that he gets in there in the games and he plays really hard and can do some things for us, and we just need him to continue to come along and mature, and come along, because he can definitely make some contested catches for us as well.
Speaking of the receivers, Kendrick Law, a lot of jet motions, jet sweeps seem to work fairly well, but how else can you guys maybe get him involved in the offense?
Yeah, we're targeted him quite a bit. This past week we're trying to get him the ball. We know he's one of those guys. He's a big, strong guy on one of the Jets, right in front of our bench there. He is very physical. He's hard to bring down, and so he's definitely a guy that that can make some plays for us. We're trying a lot of different ways to get him the ball, along with some of the other guys.
Mark, it looked like you only traveled with 3 quarterbacks on Saturday. Is that just because there aren't enough practice reps to get those freshmen prepared at this point, or do you have to consider that with Zach's status?
Yeah, you most definitely don't have time to get ready for a game plan with 4 quarterbacks. There's just not enough time, during the week and reps, with bodies and things of that nature. So, but we were trying to bring 4, and rotate those younger guys, and we will. But we needed some guys with depth on whether it be on special teams or different areas here this past week. Actually had to make a late switch for one of them.
Mark, just ball security with Cutter and back to Louisville and in this past game. What do you say to him when that starts happening? Because I'm sure it gets into his head, and just where do you need to see him grow, I guess, in that regard?
Yeah, I think we all know we can't overcome turnovers. We just can't do it. There's not many people can, certainly in our league. The way we're built right now, we can't overcome turnovers like that. Some of it's going to happen. It's not always all on him. Like you talked about the protection and the twist game and hit us, and that caused the sack fumble right there. I mean, a sack we could live with because we could punt them and pin them down and try to get a turnover ourselves. The throw on the RPO, the slant, he missed it by a half yard. I think that comes with experience and reps, and I don't want to slow him down on that. That's something that we need to progress. And I'm not trying to make an excuse, but it's like, we get, a tip right there is a little unfortunate for us. He gets the pick 6. They have a tip that gets to converts to the first down, I think, or at least a gain. So a little bit of that, we forced an errant throw and it gets to be a completion, and unfortunately Cutter gets the tip for a touchdown. So I don't think hopefully that's not going to happen much. So we have to continue to be aggressive and get him better in that area. And then one of them on the throw late, absolutely inexcusable there. The one he just kind of heaped up there. But I think, that comes with him, being young and really trying to make a play and help his team. We just, we can't have that.
It looks like a lot of what Cutter's doing requires a lot of protection time. Did he benefit from quicker?
Yes and no. I think, we have to look at things to make sure he knows where to go with the ball. You know what I mean? Right now, again, I could correlate that to, people we play against that, when our pressure's coming, they know it's coming and we're scot-free, but they still can get rid of it. So I think we as a staff going to make sure we're putting him in a position that he understands, if pressure comes, or, where he can, evade and where to go with the football. And I think it's a combination of that, just eating it sometimes, and taking a sack. And then there's sometimes when he can get rid of the football. And then there's times when we got to make sure, we're putting him in a successful position, at least to be able to make a throw. So there's a lot of things to look at that way.
Mark, David led you in tackles last week. He had 8 against Ole Miss. But what have you made of his play this season?
Yeah, he's been, very solid. I think, defensively, it happens a lot, for us. I think, we play a vast majority of the game very good. And then there's some critical plays in there. And even for him, even for Dave, there was a play or two that were critical, moments that, aren't acceptable to us. You know what I mean? That he can be better at. But I love his attitude and his energy, and, instinctually he's doing a good job. There's just, as I mentioned post-game, and it's true after watching the film, there's just some critical moments that we have to execute and be on point.
Just how much did that redshirt season last year help him?
Yeah, it definitely helped him. It did. And, that's a situation where it was a good thing, so.
Coach, would you describe Cutter as a resilient guy? Like, how do you continue to make sure his confidence stays where it needs to be going forward after a tough game like that?
Yeah, definitely. Good question, and I absolutely do. He's just one of those guys that, you know, he's just getting started. You know, he's very young in this process. And I know, you know, for young players that are very talented, they feel like, okay, wait a minute, I just sat one whole year. You know, I'm ready to go. And, you know, that's pretty hard. It's pretty difficult for anybody. And so, you know, but he is very resilient. He has a strong belief in himself. The players believe in him. You know, he has the talent, and so he'll continue to work and get better. And I don't anticipate he's the type of player that'll get affected by that.
Are you able to have those open conversations with him and kind of
Yeah,
pick your brain and pick his?
definitely. Like I said, it's very early in this process right now, but he's very much like that. You know, and I saw him and visited with him after the game, and you know, he had a good attitude and had his head up, and he'll be fine.
Coach, you mentioned losing the turnover battle is not a formula for success for the team. But how can maybe, I don't know, defense, maybe even special teams kind of maybe balance that out if some mistakes happen on offense?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, we always talk about that and takeaways, and you know, you look at us going into that game, and we had a decent amount of interceptions, fumbles. There were some balls on the ground that we weren't able to get. That's kind of a bounce sometimes. You know, so we've been doing a decent job with that. Didn't get any Saturday, credit them. There were some opportunities that again, just a fraction off. You know, one in particular that Lenoris ended up making a positive play out of, that we had him contained, and we had it set up where we needed somebody to set it high, and wasn't high enough. You know, he got around it and made us pay. And so credit him, you know, with some of that. But, you know, I think, you know, special teams wise, I was very pleased. As you know, I talked about it in here last Monday, you know, how much they can hurt you on special teams. And I thought our guys played really well, really had a really positive impact, and were really on the plus side of that, hitting yardage in special teams, which is very difficult to do against them.
Mark, you all won the toss and took the ball, which is unusual for you, but it paid off, and then you scored, and I think you scored in your first 2 drives. What was going on there positively that you saw that
And you want to see more of?
Well, I just, you know, I felt like at the time, you know, with an energetic crowd like that, and an opportunity, we wanted to take the ball and try to, you know, have a positive outcome. And our guys were ready to play. And I think physically up front, our O-line, you know, wanted to do that. And you know, it was really nice to get the ball and score. You know, on the other side of that, you know, I thought, as I mentioned, you know, giving up the touchdown with their first offensive possession was kind of frustrating.
Anybody else?
Mark, Georgia really struggled to get off the field on third down. Is that a problem, or is that just Alabama?
It was two very good teams going at it. You know, they were both, you know, very good. Yeah.
Coach, Georgia hasn't allowed or hasn't gotten a sack yet this season, I believe. Knock on wood, I guess. But does that give you guys any maybe confidence heading into this one, knowing how much pressure kind of hurt Cutter last week?
I mean, we're worried about ourselves, you know, and protecting. I think you know that, coming off a game, you know, where pressure just hurt us. You know, again, we just try to go out there each and every week and improve and get better.
Very good.
All right, thank you.